Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, actually, I have two jokes for you this morning. One, I was at the Unity. I was at when I was serving as to get my degree and ordination. Thank you. Golly. And I was serving one of the churches I served at was Unity Temple Plaza with Duke Tufty. He's a great guy. Anyway, I was there, and after service one day, a woman came up to me, and she was married to, they're kind of leaders in the church, and she was married to a great guy, but she came up to me and said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Sure." So we went to the side, and she said, "You know, my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant for a long time. She was trying to get pregnant for a long time, and we haven't been successful. Could you pray for me? Because I feel like you have a good prayer consciousness." So I said, "Sure, I'll be glad to." So I went to the village, which isn't that far, but I went to Unity Village and prayed for her. And there's places at the village you can light candles. I know that's a Catholic deal, but you know, some people like to do that. And so I lit a candle for her. And I came back to her and I said, "Listen, the prayer has started, and I'm sure you guys are going to be successful." I lit a candle, told her what I did, lit a candle here and at the village. And so she said, "Well, thanks, I appreciate it. We'll see what happens." So not too long ago, I received a call from her, and she said, "Well, Warren, how is it going down there in Georgia?" And I said, "It's going great. How are you doing?" And she said, "Well, we had 2 sets of twins and 1 set of triplets."
Oh my gosh.
And so you'll be getting in the mail pretty soon a round-trip ticket to the Beauty Village. And I said, "Oh, yeah, well, that's wonderful news. Well, why are you sending me a round-trip ticket? I'd love to go back for just a visit." And she said, "I want you to go in there and blow out those candles."
Yeah.
Okay. And then this morning I was talking to Jim and Bill, and we were talking about the pronunciation in the South. I think it's more prevalent in the South than the North, but I'm not positive. As far as pronunciation of things, well, when I was living in Texas, there's a town called Nacogdoches. And this husband and wife were driving near Nacogdoches, and they're going to go through Nacogdoches, and they're arguing about how Nacogdoches is pronounced. And so they were sitting there arguing about it for about 30 minutes, and because that's when they started, and that's when they hit Nacogdoches. And she said, the man said to his wife, said, "Well, you know what? Once we get to Nacogdoches, we're going to stop and ask the first person we meet, how do you pronounce this?" And so they stopped in, get a bite to eat, and went into the establishment and said to the lady, said, "My wife and I have been having this argument about how you pronounce this name, the name here. And so could you help us with that and say it real slow so she'll understand?" And the person behind the counter said, "Burger King." You know, seriously, on one, Jim, you'll like this too. Sorry, Jim's in a lot of things today because actually he's the reason I did this service. But anyway, we were flying once, and I don't know if I think it was getting late because we were going to have some airports, smaller airports. You have to click your mic button to turn on the lights for the runway, and so we were coming into, I can't remember the name of the place. Anyway, it's not that I can't pronounce it; I can't remember it. But anyway, you still announce you're coming in and all that stuff. So I said it, and someone happened to be there, and they came back and said, "That's not the way you pronounce our town. It's this." And so it was kind of funny because usually you don't do that, but at small airports you get away with stuff. Anyway, the problem with the poor is the name of the title of the talk this morning. And the reason it's the name of the talk is because there's a problem with the poor. And it has nothing to do with their piggy bank, though. That's funny. It has nothing to do with how much money they have at all, and you guys probably know that. But there still is a race war in our country. And people may not, most people in Unity would say, "Nah, that's not true." But there is a race war. And you see all the different ethnicities here. And that's what I asked Francie for specifically. I don't usually ask her for a type of picture, but I did on this one because I wanted to make sure that we see all the ethnicities. And when we think of what I said there is a race war in our country still. We think of this, don't we? We think of the outside of this person, isn't it? But the race war isn't that race at all. This is the race war that a lot of people like us to think about. A lot of people, and they may do it unconsciously, in fact, that they like to think that, well, you know, we're going to pit this person against this person because they look different on the outside. But the race war that we've had in our country, for all the existence of our country, and probably all the existence of humankind, is the race between the haves and the have-nots. And it's not a negative thing, but it can be a negative thing. In fact, a lot of people have played into that, played into the idea of you know, I'm better than you because I have more money than you, or that person is, you know, I have prejudice or whatever against that person because they have more money than I do, right? We've all seen that. So, you know, I've always said for a long time that the race war that we have in this country really is green. It has nothing to do with black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. And I still believe that because there's a lot of things that we can point to it, you know. And most recently, it's after I wrote this talk, but you know, the current president passed well, he didn't pass legislation. He executive ordered some money going to people who owe student loans this last week. And I'm not saying that you agree with it or don't agree with it. It's okay. I've heard both sides. And actually, believe it or not, I'm going to be a beneficiary of that because I still owe student loans, and I quit going to school a long time ago. I don't have any loans. We're not talking about loans from Unity Village, which was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, 13 years ago, 14. Anyway, I'm talking about my Wichita State loans, which were in the 70s and 80s. Okay, that's a long time ago.
Yes, it is.
And I have been paying on it, and I finally got it. It's under $10,000, but still, I'm going to benefit from this thing. So don't take it like because I hear the idea, and I agreed with the idea actually fully, that, you know, it's not fair to those who have paid it off first. I agreed with that, you know, and so I'll pay it off eventually. So I agreed with that, and then I heard someone else say, you know, something that, and I wish I knew exactly the quote because I didn't write it down in the talk because this is done before this. But they said that, you know, we've had a lot of bailouts for millionaires, for big companies and things. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of the first bailout, if you will, for people who, and the way it's set up, you know, for under 125,000, you know, you can, at least it's got a means test to it, you know. So someone making $1 million isn't going to get this, okay? And they probably paid off their loan anyway, but who knows?
Right.
So, you know, try not to, like I said a couple of weeks ago, when we hear something and we have a reaction to it right off, try to be calm enough to listen to the other side. What if there is another side? There obviously is, but listen to it and try to see if you can come to, you know, not have a visceral reaction to something, because we're talking about the real race war then, because it's not fair really for someone else to pay off my student loan, and I believe that, you know, that's not fair. But you know, if they're going to hand out billions of dollars to somebody else that I don't even know that already is worth billions of dollars, you know. And it's not. I guess that's the wrong way to look at it in a way, in my mind, the way I was raised. But you know, you have to look at it a little bit. You have to look at it a little bit more fair. So, what if we did not fall into all the hype that they try to make us believe, though? What if we quit believing everything that we heard? You know, I said a couple of weeks ago, if you watch MSNBC all the time, then you're really screwing up your mind. And if you watch Fox only all the time, then you're messing up your mind too. But you got to get a mixture of some of this stuff to think of, to be able to see both sides. You know, do I think one is fairer than the other? Yeah, I do, but so do you. You think one, and it might be the opposite one, who knows? But, you know, for our news nowadays isn't really news, it's opinions. So we have to realize that that's somebody's opinion, not the news like we thought it was.
Right.
You know, we do learn things, you know, we learn something happened, but we don't, in my opinion, we don't need to hear somebody's opinion of what happened.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I'd rather hear just what happened and then form my own basis. But that's hard to come by anymore right now. So be aware of that. Know that when somebody is telling you something right now, especially MSNBC or somebody way left or way right, then they're trying to tell you in a way to form your opinion. Right. And that's not fair to you. Because the only person that you should listen to when you're forming an opinion is who? God. Right. And that's why between you and God is the idea of doing this. because when we think about, well, I'll get to it. In America, we do live in a caste system, although it could be argued. Now, a lot of people think that we don't live in a caste system. In fact, you learn a caste system, to remind you, is you are what you're born into. It was caste system in England forever. It's not as much anymore, but it still is a lot. Who's going to be the king when the queen dies? Her son. It's that's the caste system. Okay, a class system, which is what we are in supposedly, is that you're born and you can make anything you want to of yourself. But is it true or untrue that if I'm born to a very wealthy family, do I have a step up on continuing to make wealth, or do I have compared to someone born in a poor family? Yes, it's true. So it is still a caste system in a lot of ways in the United States. And so, we can go back in our own history and look at a lot of things that really maybe we could say today are unfair. And I kind of don't like bringing them up because I don't really think that the people now are liable for what the people did then. But in the Kennedy family, look at them. Before Joseph Kennedy was a bootlegger, they didn't have money. Now they have a lot of money, and they made it from bootlegging. And so they carried that down through generation to generation. So is that fair for someone nowadays to have a lot of money from their people who have gone before them in their family that made it illegally? I don't know. But would it be smart for the government to step in and take it from them? I would say not. But anyway, that's so when we look at this and we think about all these things that whether we're a caste system or a class system, if someone, and this is the most important part of this, is what we're in, is what you think about it. And so if I'm thinking I'm in a caste system, and so whatever I was born into, that's what I'm going to be. And let me say this too, really, to let you know, especially in the Kennedy clan, is a lot of those descendants, that's been a curse on them, the money that they've got. There's been some of them have had major problems because of that, because they didn't know how to handle it. But, when we think about, if we think of ourselves as someone, well, I was born, take myself for instance, I was born in a, we would like to say lower middle class, but it wasn't that. It was less than that. It was a poor family. We had times when we didn't get as much to eat as we'd like to have, as a child. But did I ever notice it as a child? No, I didn't notice it as a child because I was brought up in the idea that we live in a class system, that you can make whatever you want to make of yourself in life. And so it's important to not think of yourself as whatever I was born into, that's where I'm stuck. Although there used, when there was actually a caste system, the government would force that. That's what you're born into, that's what you are. So, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, I think. As individuals, we have to recognize our divinity. And this is a key part of it. If we don't recognize that we are divine, then we will be stopped short of attaining anything that we want in life. Because sometimes when we think that we're here, even if we think we're in a class system and not a caste system, we're looking out here, and this is how I can do it. This is how I can change my life out here. When how you change your life is in here. And if you can't, if for the majority of people, regrettably, right now, this is the situation, they don't look at it that way. They look at it only out here is how I'm going to change things. Like critics of unity, say, well, all you think about is if you pray and if you think good thoughts, then things are going to work out all right. That's not all we think about at all. There has to be action. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that, but you have to know that you and God are on this journey together. And if you don't, you're going to mess yourself up in a lot of ways. God is the only one on your side all the time. And that's true. Besides, like I told you a couple of weeks ago, Francie agrees with everything I do. But other than that, I don't think there's any other marriage in the world that has that. Thank you, Francie. That's why I chose you. Now, you haven't got to the point where I've anointed you yet. yet, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we will be talking.
Okay, sorry. Okay, God is the only one on your side all the time. And so, the boys are so much fun. I love them all the time, but they get mad at me sometimes. And right now, Aiden's going through that stage where, he'll say, I hate you and get out of here. I never want to see you again and all that. And, it's just a stage. I keep telling myself that. Once we see God in us, we can see God in everything. And that's true. When we come from a spiritual sense, and come from an idea that I'm not, the only thing that's holding me back is whatever I'm holding myself back from. And then we can know we can do anything and everything that we want to do. We are only limited by the limitations, that's what we put on ourselves. So, that's true. That's what I just said. Enjoying the ride is an important part of the journey. I thought I had that Bible quote in here. I don't?
You do. It's
Okay,
coming.
good. Okay, I'm ahead of myself.
That's all right.
Enjoying the ride is an important part of the journey, and I'm glad that Francie actually, that's funny, you put that on there, because I do enjoy roller coasters, and a lot of people don't, and it's funny because there's Tom Thorpe, good, thank you, you knew where I was going. Tom Thorpe is a great minister, community minister. I think he still has a church in Independence, Missouri, thank you. You are, see how good you are? You're working with me. Because I needed those. That's what I was thinking of.
I'm trying to get my anointing.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
You're getting close. Anyway, he loves roller coasters too, but he had a heart condition, and he's been told by his heart doctor to stop riding the roller coasters. And every once in a while, though, he gets out and rides one. So, but I like the ones. The reason I'll tell you why I like them. I like the ones that go upside down. And the reason I like them? I like them because you're strapped in there all the way, and there's no way you're going to fall out. It's really cool. Anyway, you go in there. I don't like the ones that go backwards. Those do scare me. Just don't feel like I'm in control then, I guess. But anyway, it's fun. And so, in a couple of months, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to take JW and Aiden on their first roller coaster at Disney World. So it's going to be great. But enjoying that part of our journey through life is important. It's just like stop and smell the roses, because if we don't, and I can be definitely a big witness on this, because I'm whatever. Probably for most of my life still, I have not been very good at this at all. Not at all. I had a goal, and that's where I wanted to go, and that's where I was going to go. Whatever I needed to do it. Francie knows. She's been married to me when I had my printing business. I worked a few, what would it be, overnighters, and of course the next day comes, you're not off. That's when business is open. So, anyway. No matter how long it takes us, if we go with God, it will feel like no time at all. And that's true. I mean, I can't believe, really, when we think about it, sometimes we've been here more than 10 years. And, if I was looking at it the old way, then I'd say, gosh, we should have had everything done. But we're really still right on plan. And what I want to tell you about is something that I don't have here, because I heard it this week, is when, from the Bible, when David was going to be king, or was supposed to be king, the prophet came to Jesse's house, which was David's father, and wanted to anoint the next king, because he had been told by God that the next king is in Jesse's house, is one of the sons of Jesse. And Jesse had 7 sons. So Jesse brought in everybody, all his sons, except for David, because David was out with the sheep. You know that story. So how he was told to anoint the next king was take the bottle of oil that was blessed, and he was going to pour the bottle of oil, you may have heard this story or not before, on the correct son of Jesse, and that would be the next king. And so when he went to each son, and he went by what Jesse thought was most important, his oldest, and then on down the line, as far as how they had done in life. And the prophet went and tried to pour it on each one of them, and the oil would not come out. And so the prophet, when he was done with these boys, or they were men now, went to Jesse and said, something's wrong here, because I know that the oil is supposed to anoint one of your sons. Have you got all your sons here? And he says, well, no, I don't have David here, because he's kind of a small, never did really grow that much, and really we got him kind of put out to the pasture with the sheep, not really needing him, knowing he's not going to amount to much. And the prophet said, please bring him from the field in here. And once he got in there, the prophet turned the oil over, and it flowed freely onto David's head. The point of this story is that, David went through a lot before this came about in his own family and everything. The point of the story is, though, you're never going to be anointed until it's your time. And when it's your time, you're going to be anointed. There's nobody going to take it away from you. Not your brothers or anybody. So sometimes we think in life, in our human thinking, that, things should happen at a certain time, a little bit faster or whatever, and it doesn't. And even though it doesn't, we have to stand steadfast, knowing that our anointing is coming at the right time. And we just need to be patient and listen to the guidance that we receive in prayer to continue on that path and find out when it happens. So if we do that and we allow ourselves to enjoy the journey, then it will be like no time at all. There must be sacrifice for us to be fully with God. And what is that? When I say that, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, we have to sacrifice. What does that mean? Give up something. Well, it does mean give up something. It means give up the thoughts of lack, thoughts that you are less than, the thoughts that you are cast into a system that may keep you at a certain level in your life where you are limited in some way, because you're not limited. When you come to that realization that God is with you and God is in you and you are to express God in your life, then you will recognize that you are unlimited and nothing can stop you from whatever you need or whatever, anything that you think might be out of your reach. This is a unusual definition from the Revealing Word, but it's apropos for today's lesson, is heifer. And, I don't know if you were around farm or anything when you were young, but a heifer was a cow where I was. And so anyway, let's read the definition of heifer. The heifer, she-goat, ram, turtle dove, and young pigeon that Abram was instructed to take in Genesis 15:9 represent beliefs on the sense plane that must be sacrificed. Now I want you to notice a couple things, and this is kind of getting in the weeds, but this says Abram, because Abram was his name before he became Abraham. Okay? Before he was anointed, right. So he's still in the sense consciousness, thinking that he has to make these sacrifices. The thought of physical strength must be given up, and its spiritual source must be realized. The human must be giving up, this is a sacrifice, must be given up in order that the divine will may prevail. All subconscious resistance to the working of the divine law must be denied away. So, when we come to a situation where we feel like that we're being guided to build a church, we go to the water department, they say they're going to charge us $16,000 that we don't want to spend on a water meter, a simple little water meter, and we just look for other options. What's the deal here? Why is it so much? And then we're guided in the right way. The other thing about Abram, if you remember, what did Abraham, when he became Abraham, what was he asked to sacrifice? His son. And did he sacrifice him? No, because at the last minute before he jabbed the dagger to sacrifice his son, God told him to stop, right? It doesn't go to that extreme when we are understanding that we're divine to begin with, because we're listening to God instead of human as far as sacrificing. Believe it or not, this sacrifice is the easiest part. So sacrificing your idea of being limited is the easiest part of our journey. The harder part, if you will, although it's not as hard because you don't recognize it as hard because you are understanding that you are with God then, but the harder part is just following that guidance to do something that you don't think that you're capable of, or you don't think that you deserve, but you are changing that thought to understand that you are capable of anything and that you do deserve everything. Know that when we see something other than God, we are not looking through God's eyes. And this is, again, when we are in our divinity, we understand that we are spirit living in this human form right now, and we see something that is not of God, that we see like a war or something like that, then we don't take part in the war consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if we see a war being shown on TV, then we don't take part in thinking that mentally that I am at war, that America is at war with somebody else. We take part in seeing that the people on both sides of whatever it is come to cherish the people that are involved everywhere. Blessed are, this is the quote that I was mainly talking about today, because blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You know, this is the first of the Beatitudes that Jesus talked about. And the Beatitudes are really, really great and important. It's a great teaching, great understanding, but this first one is so misunderstood and so said wrong, because there are people that read the Bible literally, and when you read this literally, what does that mean to you? Well, if I'm poor in spirit, if I'm meek and everything, then I'll inherit the kingdom of heaven. If I just do what I'm supposed to do. Doesn't that sound like the caste system to you? Jesus did not put us in a caste system, or God didn't put us in a caste system. So this wasn't what he was saying at all. So what he was saying was that if we understand that we are full of spirit, then we can help ourselves have heaven here. Poor in spirit from the Revealing Word says this: those who have denied personal consciousness, so they're not listening to the outer, they're not doing what they think they're not looking at their paycheck comes from UPS, if they work for UPS. My paycheck comes from the source of God, whatever that is, whatever company that is. They are poor in the spirit of selfishness, but rich in the spirit of Christ. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for those, that's what it is, that's the quote. Guiding us in a different way is God's way of correcting our sight and path. So if we're going down the wrong road, if I put in the plans a 2-inch pipe, and I should have started with a 5/8-inch pipe, then God's going to hopefully correct me. Now, I would say that was a big, easy correction, wouldn't you? I mean, if you guys think that we should have kept the 2-inch and want to pay the $16,000, write me a check and I'll go ahead and change it back to 2 inches. But we don't need that much water right now. And so we're okay with what we need right now. When we think poor thoughts, we are poor in accordance with those thoughts. I can't pay my bills this month. I've only got so much money. And so I can see right now that I just can't pay my bills. What's that going to get you? That's going to get you at the end of the month of not being able to pay your bills, right?
Exactly.
What if you have that amount that you know is coming in? Your bills may be higher than that right now, but what if you change your consciousness to thinking, I'm open to receiving God's abundance? And what if it doesn't happen at the end of that month? I'm still open to receiving God's abundance. What if it doesn't happen the next month? I'm still open to receiving God's abundance. What if something happens that you weren't expecting? Someone's going to pay off your student loan. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But we have to know and understand that if we allow ourselves to think that it is going to happen, then it can happen. If we don't allow ourselves to think it's going to happen, then it'll never happen, right? I mean, whether it happens or not is really our understanding and how much we grow in our understanding of spirit. But don't beat yourself up and say, well, this isn't working. I didn't get the money to pay my bills this month. This isn't working, so I'm quitting it. Don't do that. That's cutting off your nose to spite your face. That doesn't work. Thoughts are abstract. They are not attached to God unless we attach them to God. So, why I put that up there was because if we think that, I'm supposed to be poor in spirit, I'm supposed to be meek, I'm supposed to be, poor as me, I'm supposed to be the welcome mat to everybody, then you're going to be that, first of all, but don't attach it to God. Don't attach it to God saying that God wanted me to be that way, because God doesn't want you to be that way. God wants you to be prosperous, healthy in every way. And so if you take that attitude, then it is going to be that way, whatever attitude you take. Today's civil rights movement has to be focused around God to include everyone. And, that just reminded me, one of the reasons that I wrote this was because of the fact that Francie and I were watching a program, actually, that includes a lot of the civil rights movement during the 60s. It's about the 60s and things happening in the 60s. But anyway, it gave me a different look at Malcolm X. Because, I had thought that Malcolm X, and, I still need to do some more study on it, but I had thought Malcolm X really was pretty much a belligerent...
outlaw.
Not really an outlaw, but a very violent type of person. But in this portrayal, he's not that really at all. He came to being a little bit of, if you push me, I'm going to push you. Instead of, but it wasn't like he was going out looking for a fight. So it's different. And you need to, when we look at those things and understand those things, and he knew, Martin Luther King, and he knew other people, so it wasn't like they didn't agree on what they were trying to accomplish, but they looked at it in different ways of accomplishing it, of different paths, which we do in spirituality a lot. In fact, it's funny because there's a fellow minister of ours, a unity minister, that I was really, I had already graduated, and we were still at the village, and I prayed with him, and he was my, I wasn't really, I don't know if you call it a mentor, but I was, they assigned students to people who had already graduated that were still around to help them through the process. And so I prayed with him a lot, and he did great and had a church, and now he's I don't know what he's doing, but he'll get a church again probably. But it's interesting because he and I look at things differently as far as how to increase the unity movement, and how to, when we come into things that we may not agree with in society, how we handle that. And so I, of course, am the older version of I guess I would be, in that relationship, I guess I would be MLK, and he would definitely be Malcolm X. So anyway, but we talked about that, through text and stuff a couple of times, and he finally said, "Well, you've got your way, and I've got mine." And I said, "That's true." So anyway, the less separation, the more God. So when we talk about anything in life, and that's one thing that, and all these things come up in society and in life to make us think and to make us realize that we shouldn't have any separation from God. The schools teaching what they teach, parents getting more involved, is a good thing, in my opinion. Parents need to be involved. For a long time, maybe that's what this whole thing is about, is parents were getting less and less involved in the school and trusting, and it's okay to trust, but, it's like Reagan said, trust but verify. You still need to make sure that everything's going okay. You don't want your kids coming out of school thinking, I'm better or I'm worse, right? That has really nothing to do with school. But, you want them to learn that really, if possible, and I've seen this through kids coming out of school, K through 12, is they are getting better. They're getting better. We're okay. We're going to leave the world in good shape. They're getting better about seeing how we are all one. Now, I don't know if they've all come to the conclusion that we're all one with God, but they're coming to that slowly but surely. And believe it or not, you won't believe, well, you probably will because maybe you've heard it, but nowadays in a lot of classrooms, they teach meditation. When a kid, especially in the young classes, when they get mad or something, they try to teach them to go meditate and calm down. And it's really a cool deal. So it's happening, not as fast as all of us would like probably, but and there's a lot of reason for that. A lot of people in church churches still don't. They say they want more God in everybody's life, but they want it to be their God, their way, right? And so it's happening, but it's just happening. Today is the moment we can be closer to God if we choose to be that. Now is now. It's the only now that we're going to ever have. Those words I just spoke are not now anymore. Now is now. And so we get to choose. Are we going to be closer to God, or are we going to be less close to God? And it can be like a roller coaster sometime, and that's okay. Some things happen in our life where we don't feel close to God, and that's okay. But we hopefully will come back up and know that we are closer to God, and I went through that for a reason. So we can choose that or not choose that, whatever we want. Be blessed and be God. That's going to be my new closing from now on. So be blessed and be God for a while. So thank you, and we got and it's funny because this kind of cemented this song that we've got today. Kind of cemented what I was thinking about that first beatitude, as far as the poor in spirit receive the kingdom of God, is that when I looked up poor in spirit for songs, oh my God, were you depressed? And I